Welcome back to Big Fan Sports. I'm Jaden Harper. The Phillies finally know who they are going to play in the NLDS. They will be taking on the New York Mets after they defeated the Milwaukee Brewers in a 3-game series, 2-1 on a Pete Alonso go-ahead home run in the top of the ninth inning, down to their final 2 outs on their season. They win Game 3 tonight, 4-2. So they will take on the Phillies starting on Saturday. We'll actually take a look right now at the series schedule. So game 1 is on Saturday. It is at 4 o'clock. I will be live for that game, but it will also be on Fox. Same time on Sunday. I will again be live for that game on FS1 as well. Tuesday, time is to be determined. That game, Fox or FS1. Wednesday, same thing if necessary. And then Friday would be the deciding game 5 at Citizens Bank Park, to be determined on the time and to be determined on the network. But I will make it my goal to be live for every single Phillies postseason game, including these first in the National League Division Series. But let's look at this tail of the tape in between these two teams this regular season. Phillies ended up with more wins. They won the division. The Mets came in second. They came in third in the division. They tied with Atlanta for second place. They are moving on. They were the 6th seed in the National League. Now they're moving on to take on the Phillies. Both 6 seeds actually win this year in the wild card. The Tigers defeating the Astros yesterday. So the Tigers and Mets both advancing to the LDS against the Guardians and the Phillies for each team. For the Mets, they lost the season series against the Phillies. We won the season series against the Mets 7-6, and 3 of those losses were started by Taijuan Walker. So when you take those out, the Phillies went 7-3 against the Mets without Taijuan Walker. Walker's not going to make the postseason roster. He's not going to really be a factor in this postseason series. The Phillies dominated in the earlier half of the year. The Mets took 3 out of 4 from the Phillies at Citi Field a couple weeks ago. The Phillies took 2 out of 3 from the Mets at Citizens Bank Park about 3 weeks ago. So these two teams have a lot of history. With all their history, this is the first time they have ever played each other in the playoffs. It's hard to believe that for both of these historic franchises. But for the Phillies, this is the 5th time they played a division opponent in the postseason. 2 of them actually just came last year when they defeated the Atlanta Braves and the Miami Marlins. They have won those series. They beat Atlanta 2 more times after that, but they did lose to Montreal back in 1981 in the National League Division Series. So when you go through all of that, the Phillies are 3-1 all time in the postseason against their division opponents. But this is a clean slate against the Mets. They've never played each other in the postseason. Right now, the Phillies are lining up their pitching exactly how they want to, and it benefits them. They'll get Zach Wheeler game 1. They'll most likely get him game 5. Hopefully they don't need it, but they would have Zach Wheeler in a winner-go-home game at Citizens Bank Park. For the Mets, a lot of questions. They used David Peterson to close out the game 3 against Milwaukee. Will it be Luis Severino on short rest? He started on Tuesday. It would be 3 days of rest for him in game 1. Will it be Tyler McGill? He started about 2 weeks ago against the Phillies on Sunday Night Baseball. Had a really solid outing. Did not pitch during the wild card series. He last pitched on Monday in Atlanta. Or will it be a bullpen game in game 1? Maybe an opener to McGill. Nobody really knows yet what the Mets could be doing in game 1. Game 2, I would believe Severino would go game 2 on 4 days rest. I feel like that probably makes the most sense when you look at the outlook for the entire series, that he goes game 2, Manaea 3, and then if necessary, it would be either Peterson or it could be Quintana game 4. Quintana had a really, really solid outing today for the Mets. He doesn't get the win, but he had a really solid outing for the Mets today. So the Mets have to line up their pitching that way. The Phillies have a much easier way to line up their pitching. It's going to be Wheeler game 1, most likely Nola game 2, Sanchez game 3, Suarez game 4, and it'll go back to Wheeler game 5. But Sanchez and Nola could obviously change. They both have better home stats than road stats, but we'll see what the Phillies decide to do. Again, this is the series preview. I'll be back here Saturday morning for a preview of Game 1 of the National League Division Series in between the Phillies and the Mets. And I'll also be live on Saturday for 2 games. First game, the Tigers at the Guardians, and then right after that, the Mets at the Phillies. So make sure to stay tuned for both of those. Thank you for watching Big Fan Sports and the Phillies Fan Podcast. I'm Jaden Harper, and I'll see you next time.